I saw you earlier than that.
Really?
In Maryland. I was playing with...
For more than 3 decades, Alison Krauss's angelic voice defined a generation of bluegrass and country music fans. Her haunting harmonies, delicate fiddle playing, and quiet grace earned her 27 Grammy Awards, more than any other female artist in history. To millions, she was the heart of American folk, pure, timeless, and untouchable. Yet, just as her career seemed unstoppable, Alison suddenly vanished from the spotlight. Fans noticed it first in her silence. Concert tours were canceled. Her voice, once a gentle force of nature, grew faint and strained. Rumors began swirling online. Was it exhaustion? A creative break? Or something much darker? For years, Alison stayed quiet, offering only small glimpses of her world beyond the stage. But recently, at 54, she finally opened up, and what she revealed left even her most loyal fans heartbroken. Behind that radiant smile and serene stage presence was a woman battling something few ever suspected. The truth about why Alison Krauss stepped away wasn't about fame, money, or even fading passion. It was about pain. Both emotional and physical, it was the kind of struggle she carried in silence for far too long. Those who knew her best say that Alison's greatest gift was also her greatest burden: her voice. Every note came from years of dedication, endless touring, and perfectionism. But behind the beauty was strain, not just on her body, but on her soul. When she finally spoke about her reason for leaving, she did it with the same honesty and humility that made her a legend. And for fans who grew up with her music, that revelation felt like a final song, one filled with truth, tears, and a reminder that even the most gifted voice long before Alison Krauss became a household name, she was a shy girl from Champaign, Illinois, who found her escape in music. While other kids spent their evenings watching television, Alison was practicing the fiddle, lost in melodies that seemed far older than she was. By the time she was 10, her talent was already undeniable. A quiet prodigy in a small town who played with the grace and emotion of someone twice her age. At 13, Alison won the Illinois State Fiddle Championship, a moment that would change her life forever. The win brought her into the bluegrass scene, where older musicians couldn't believe the depth of her skill. They called her the little girl with the ancient soul. By 16, she had already recorded her first album, Too Late to Cry, and signed with Rounder Records, a label that would become her creative home for decades. But it was in the late 1980s and early 1990s that Alison Krauss began to reshape American music. With her band, Union Station, she created a sound that was both traditional and fresh. Her crystal-clear soprano voice and unmatched fiddle work brought bluegrass, once a niche genre, into the mainstream. Songs like When You Say Nothing at All and Baby, Now That I've Found You became radio staples, loved by fans far beyond the country world. Yet, what made Alison special wasn't just her technical brilliance, it was her humility. While other artists chased fame, Alison stayed grounded. She rarely gave interviews, avoided controversy, and kept her private life just that: private. Her presence was calm, her words gentle, her performances almost spiritual. She wasn't trying to be a star, she was trying to make something beautiful. As her career soared, the awards poured in. She won Grammy after Grammy, performed on the biggest stages, and even collaborated with legends like Robert Plant, the frontman of Led Zeppelin. Their 2007 album, Raising Sand, shocked the industry, an ethereal blend of rock, folk, and bluegrass that swept the Grammy Awards. The collaboration showed the world that Alison wasn't just a bluegrass artist, she was a visionary. But behind that success, the cracks had already begun to show. Alison was known for her perfectionism. Every note had to be right, every harmony balanced just so. For years, she toured relentlessly, performing night after night, city after city. To her bandmates, She was tireless, but behind the scenes, the pressure was taking its toll. Her voice, her greatest gift, was beginning to suffer. By the early 2010s, fans noticed something was off. Alison's once effortless vocals began sounding strained during live performances. Some concerts were canceled without explanation. She appeared tired, distant, and less confident on stage. When asked in interviews, she brushed it off with her usual grace, saying she just needed a little rest. But insiders knew it was more than that. For years, Alison had been quietly battling vocal problems, a mysterious condition that made singing painful and unpredictable. It wasn't something rest alone could fix. Doctors advised her to slow down, to take care of her voice before it was permanently damaged. But for someone whose life revolved around music, the idea of silence was unbearable. In one rare interview, Alison admitted, "When you've been doing this since you were a kid, you don't really know who you are without it. Music is how I breathe." That confession hinted at the inner conflict tearing her apart. The fear of losing not just her career, but a piece of her identity. Still, she kept going, determined to prove she could overcome it. But as the years went by, the fatigue deepened. Her performances grew fewer, her public appearances rarer. Eventually, even her closest fans had to face the truth. Alison Krauss, the angelic voice of bluegrass, was fading from the stage. What no one knew, however, was that her retreat wasn't just about her voice. It was also about something far more personal. A quiet pain she had carried for years, one that would ultimately force her to walk away from the spotlight she had never truly wanted, as sometimes need to rest. By the time Alison Krauss entered her 50s, her absence from the stage was impossible to ignore. Once the centerpiece of American roots music, she had quietly withdrawn from public life. No tours, no new solo albums, no appearances on award shows. For years, fans speculated. Some thought she was simply tired after decades of performing. Others whispered that she was done with music entirely. But the truth, when it finally came out, revealed a battle far deeper than anyone imagined. Alison's struggle began quietly, years earlier. Around 2010, during rehearsals and recording sessions, she started noticing something unusual. Her voice, once flawless and effortless, didn't respond the way it used to. Notes she could once reach with ease now required strain. Phrases that used to flow smoothly suddenly caught in her throat. At first, she dismissed it as exhaustion. After all, she had spent over 25 years performing without real rest. But the symptoms persisted. Doctors eventually diagnosed her with dysphonia, a vocal condition that affects the muscles controlling the vocal cords. For a singer whose livelihood depended on clarity and control, it was devastating news. "It felt like my voice was betraying me," she later admitted in an interview. "It wasn't pain exactly. It was fear. I didn't know if it would ever sound right again." Her team encouraged her to take time off, hoping rest and therapy would help. But for Alison, stepping away from music was like losing a part of her soul. Music had been her language since childhood, the way she connected with the world, expressed emotion, and found peace. To suddenly live without it left her lost and uncertain. As her health worsened, so did her emotional state. The pressure to maintain her reputation as a flawless performer weighed heavily on her. Those close to her described her as deeply private and quietly overwhelmed. For decades, she had carried the image of calm perfection, the angelic voice who never complained, never faltered. Admitting weakness, especially one that affected her voice, felt like admitting defeat. So she did what she had always done. She kept silent. Alison continued recording when she could, though fewer sessions made it to release. Behind closed doors, she underwent treatment and therapy to retrain her voice. Some days were hopeful, others were heartbreaking. Friends say she'd often pick up her fiddle just to feel close to the music again, even when she couldn't sing. In public, she smiled, appearing at select events with her usual grace. But those brief appearances masked the toll that years of physical and emotional strain had taken. When she finally opened up about it years later, fans were stunned by her honesty. "I didn't quit because I wanted to," she confessed softly. "I quit because my body told me I had to." But there was another layer to her decision, one that had nothing to do with illness. After decades in the industry, Alison had grown disillusioned with the constant demands of fame, the endless touring, the scrutiny, the commercial pressure to evolve. It all clashed with her quiet, spiritual approach to art. She once said, "Music used to feel like a prayer. Somewhere along the way, it started to feel like work." The death of close friends and mentors in the bluegrass world only deepened that feeling. Many of the musicians she had looked up to were gone, and with them, a part of the world she once loved. "It felt like the music changed," she admitted, "and maybe I changed with it." So, while the world speculated that she was retired, Alison Krauss was really doing something few artists have the courage to do. She was letting go. She was learning to live beyond the stage, to find beauty in quiet moments rather than applause. When she finally spoke publicly about her absence, her voice trembled not from weakness, but from emotion. "I spent my whole life chasing perfect sound," she said. "Now I'm just learning how to be still, to listen instead of sing." For fans who had grown up with her songs, it was bittersweet. The woman whose voice once carried so much light had stepped into the shadows.